Sonia is our political guru and expert in all things public affairs, all things government, and she's going to give us the benefit of her keen brain for a few moments about what's been going on in the world. So what is happening out there, Sonia? Where are we at the moment? When's the election, and what do we expect is going to happen over the next 12 months?
Yeah, thank you for the introduction as a guru. Going to have to live up to that now. So we're expecting a general election in about a year's time. So we're expecting it to be around October 2024. It could be slightly earlier than that, but the latest it can be is around January 2025. So we're definitely going to have a general election next year, and it's looking likely it's going to be in the autumn time. I think, ask me where things stand. I think, Labour are in a really strong position. I think that they've built up strong momentum, and at this stage they look set to win the next general election. If you look at the polling, they're really ahead in the polls. They're about a 20-point lead over the Conservative Party, so they're doing incredibly well, and I think it'd be incredibly difficult for the kind of Conservative government to overturn that now. You might remember when Parliament returned from summer recess and Keir Starmer reshuffled his shadow team. He looked really authoritative and looked like he was setting up his kind of new team to kind of be next in line in the government. So he's in a very strong position. I think the Labour Party are doing very well. I think if we look at where the Conservatives are, I think they're facing kind of really challenging economic backdrop. It's not economic uncertainty, high inflation, high wage growth, really difficult, like energy costs, high fuel costs. I think it's a really difficult challenge for the Conservative Party at the moment. And I think that Rishi Sunak is struggling to build that momentum and also that popularity. I think we've seen some botched announcements yesterday around net zero, which was obviously leaked before he even wanted it to come out. We've had some announcements around Chinese spies and, people escaping from prison. So I think it's just been bad news story after bad news story. And I think it's a really, really tough time for the Conservative government at the moment. If I think back to Labour, I think, things are looking pretty optimistic for Keir Starmer, relatively optimistic, I'd say. And I think they're helped not just by the fact that the Tory government are doing so badly, but I think also, not only just the fact that there's a sense that the kind of Conservatives have, lost steam after 13 years, but also I remember a few years ago people were saying Labour will never win the next general election because they can never win back Scotland. But actually, I think Nicola Sturgeon and the SNP have actually done a fantastic job of undermining their own fortunes, and now they're really looking likely they're going to make some big losses at the next general election. And when we speak to SNP MPs that we know really well and that they have really big majorities, they're saying to us that we're expecting to lose the next general election. So I think, Labour are doing well. They've built up momentum, and they have the SNP helping them, which is good, I think. But I don't think that comes without challenges. And for Labour to get a majority, of even one, they need to win 123 seats. So that's a really huge challenge, and a mountain to climb for the Labour Party, and would be a huge electoral swing, the likes that we would have seen kind of 1997. So if you ask me where things stand, if I was a betting person, don't hold me to it, but I would say Labour are doing really well. I think they're going to get a majority at the next general election. But, a year is a really long time in politics. Lots can happen. Things can change. Scenarios can play out. So at the moment, that's where I place my bets. But I reserve the right to change my mind.
So don't put your entire life savings or the family silver down at Ladbrokes on that eventuality. You mentioned there at the start the announcement on net zero yesterday. Yeah. And, we as FWD have been doing a lot of work on sustainability and helping wholesale on that pathway to net zero by 2024. There's lots of things that we need from government in order to do that. Yeah. Do you think that Rishi Sunak is trying to wind back from some of his commitments and clear the decks a little bit on some of the sustainability policies? I mean, I'm specifically thinking about not just electric vehicles and investment in tech, but also things like DRS and EPR. We're seeing some of those policies in the sustainability arena being pushed down the line a bit. What's happening there?
Yeah, so I think for the government, the main focus at the moment is they want to reach that inflationary reduction target. They want to reduce inflation this year so that next year, ahead of the general election, they can give those big tax giveaways and they can say to the public, look, we're doing so great economically, we're fiscally responsible, something that they're trying to prove that they are now. So I think that's why loads of policies have been delayed, especially EPR, DRS, HFSS, all those policies that have had major inflationary impact on the sector. They've said, let's push that down the road, sort inflation now, and then we can talk about it later. So I think that's why a lot of policies have been impacted. I think on net zero, if you look at what happened in Uxbridge with the by-election, with the ULEZ, loads of people were completely against it. And because of that, I think that spooked the government slightly. They're seeing that, loads of people don't like net zero if it impacts their personal finances. So they're trying to separate themselves from Labour and say, look, we're the party of the people. We're going to help you with the cost of living crisis. Vote for us because we're going to take a step back on net zero. So I think they're trying to, reduce inflation, but also separate themselves from Labour. So when it comes to general election, they're the party of the people and they've sorted out the economy. So I think that's what's happening there.
Yeah, interesting. And obviously that's been relatively good news for our sector in terms of things like HFSS, as you say, EPR, DRS, really interesting. So what have you been doing on behalf of the sector? What activities have we got at the moment?
Yeah, so we're doing quite a lot. So in terms of, I guess, EPR, DRS, although those policies have been delayed, we've been doing quite a lot of work at the moment because the government are really looking at the detail of those policies and are deciding those ahead of them being introduced. So James and I have been doing a lot of work with officials to make sure that those policy areas work for you. So, for example, on DRS, although that's delayed to October 2025, and that's very much seen as a stretch target, could be delayed even further. Officials are now working on how to make the scheme more interoperable, and I know that's really important for the wholesale sector because we want to avoid that hard border with Scotland. So looking at ways that we can align deposit levels, looking at ways we could see if we can have exemptions for small businesses like Scotland have. So we're working really closely with officials on DRS. EPR, the same. We're doing a lot of work with officials on EPR. There's a whole issue at the moment around the definition of household waste and wholesalers getting wrongly captured, their waste being seen as household waste and therefore incurring EPR fees. So we're working really closely with officials to make sure that wholesale waste does not lead to high EPR fees, and that's something we're working with the Environment Agency as well as the government on. So I think that kind of from a policy aspect, that's what we're doing among a million other things. That's just the kind of two things I just pick out for today. Yeah. And then on the kind of more broader government affairs stuff, we do kind of a really big meeting program. So we meet with really high level ministers and like Jonathan Reynolds was a former Bays minister. We regularly meet with Daniel Seitner, and we set up these meetings because we try and build that kind of network of champions who are willing to, defend the interests of the wholesale sector when we need them. So we do that from a kind of building relationship side, and we do that to help the wholesale sector. And as part of that, we are hosting a dinner later this year to bring together all of our MP champions in the industry to talk about all the great work that the wholesale sector are doing, and then the kind of policy areas and kind of risks that are facing the wholesale sector and what support we need. So we've got Daniel Seitner, the Shadow Food Minister, and Mark Spencer, the Food Minister, coming to that. So that'll be good.
Fantastic. And lots of depot visits planned as well as we head towards the election. Really important.
Lots of depot visits planned, and that's actually really helpful for us because we get the local MP to come to the depot, talk about the challenges the business are facing. So a little bit of a call to action for me, for all of you on the call. If you ever want us to organise for your local MP to come visit your depot, then please either email James, or I'm sure James can put my email in the chat. So we can organise it for you because it's actually really helpful for our meeting programme if we can get MPs to visit wholesale depots and see businesses in action.
Fantastic. And lots of suppliers on the call as well. And we've got something that we're going to be setting up or in the process of setting up at the moment for our supplier members. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we are working on setting up a new food industry group with all the supplier groups, and the point of that is to bring the industry together so we can work on policies like EPR, like DRS, like plastics, and so we can align as an industry. When we do have these kind of challenging regulatory things upcoming, we can work together on it and share best practice and ideas and thoughts about how we want to tackle it. So that's something that we're looking to set up shortly. And if you're interested, then do let us know.
Yeah, we've been doing a big meeting program, excuse me, with our supply partner members, meeting their public affairs people, corporate relations. That's gone really, really well. And I think there's no actual specific forum where that group comes together across categories. So it's going to be an exciting development for the trade. So yeah, collaboration in action. So exciting times ahead, but busy times ahead. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Sonia. Good to see you as always. And yeah, we'll continue flying the flag for wholesale and working across the range of issues. So brilliant. Yeah, thanks very much. And see you again soon.
Thank you for having me. Bye.